Before you make a major purchase like a car or a major appliance, big screen TV, chances are you do some research. You go on the web, you look at reviews, you give it some thought. Well, you should do the same thing before you decide which bank to use. Hello again, I'm Mark Huffman with MoneyWatch Radio, and today we're going bank shopping. Joining me is Alex Matjanec. He's the co-founder of My Bank Tracker and a veteran of the banking industry. Alex, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I know there's been some consolidation in the banking industry in the last few years, but there are still a lot of banks to choose from. So what should a consumer be looking for when they go shopping for a bank?
It's definitely true because you imagine there's over 7,000 institutions that you can really choose from when you're looking to, put your money somewhere outside of under your mattress. And the things that we really like our consumers or our readers to focus on are three things. One of the most important ones is location. While there is this massive growth in online banking, consumers today feel they may need the need for a branch near them, and they need to consider not only near their home, but probably also where they also work. And then based on those branches, consider things like ATM networks and being able to make sure that if they need to withdraw money, they can do so in a convenient way while avoiding fees. And that really leads into the second point we want to focus on, which is fees. And when you're choosing an institution or a bank that you want to, build a relationship with, because we have to assume these relationships will last, 2-3 years at a minimum, you want to avoid the fees that institution applies to their specific accounts, be it a checking account, a savings account, or some form of investment account. And in this situation, the best way to do so is to really look at your financial habits. And things like, do you have direct deposit? Does your work offer you that? If so, that's one of the most common ways to avoid a monthly maintenance fee that institutions or banks apply to their standard checking accounts. Other actions along that is also ATM fees. It's the most common way people usually get hit with these with fees on a monthly basis. Some of the largest institutions charge anywhere between $2 to $3 every time you use an ATM that isn't associated with that bank. And so you can imagine if you withdraw money, twice a week from another institution, you could be spending up to, $20 a month in fees or, over $200 annually. And so really ATM networks are making sure that you're near your ATM is important.
So consumers really need to give some thought to how they use banking services, because if a bank charges a lot of fees for services the consumer uses a lot, the consumer should probably choose another bank.
Yeah, definitely. Or in some instances, you can go to places that have higher fees, but as long as your financial situation allows you to avoid them. So, without naming names, I partner with one of the larger institution banks for my banking, but I have direct deposit. I live in a metropolitan area where there's a lot of the ATMs for my specific bank. And so it allows me to be a member of that bank and get advantage of their multiple branches while avoiding their hefty fees because of the situation that I'm in based on them being popular in my location. And so you really have to consider these factors when you're choosing banks. If you choose a community bank, you really want to make sure that community bank has a part of an ATM network. For example, that is Allpoint is the name of an ATM network that you would hope your community bank is with, because that allows you to go and take money out at a lot of pharmacies that exist in your neighborhood or gas stations without getting hit with those surcharge fees. And then if you go further than that, you look at other habits that are common in your space, such as, maybe if you need to transfer money, maybe you need to do online bill pay. Some banks will give this to you for free as an added bonus. Other banks will charge you for that. So you really need to look at your financial habits to make sure that you're making the right relationship, knowing that relationship is going to last you, 2 or 3 years, if not longer.
So how is shopping for a bank now different than it was in the past, or is it different?
I think it definitely is, and the main way we say different is, to kind of plug my bank tracker for a second, is the ability to allow you to easily compare banks online with being able to make your decision. I think in the past, choosing a bank was really driven by advertising, but there's a lot of information on the internet today where you can go online, and especially like podcasts and radio sessions like this, where you're able to gain information very easily to make smart decisions. That includes reviews on the specific banks. There's a lot of reviews sites out there that allow you to get information on how those are, how have those rates changed if you're looking to open up a savings account and you want to make sure you're not with one that constantly drop rates, and just general fees and comparison of products. And so I think today there's an abundance of technology and services available to you to make smarter decisions and not really just choose the local bank that is across the street from you.
What do you think has been the biggest driver of changes in the banking industry? For example, what's been behind the emphasis on fee income?
Definitely. I think the federal legislation has continued to play a major role in shaping today's banking industry. A few years ago when they set the debit card swipe fee, a lot of consumers didn't realize that every time you swipe your debit card at a merchant or a retailer, that retailer was getting charged a fee for that. And that fees have been cut down to protect retailers, but then banks have turned around and placed those fees on consumers with higher checking accounts, less perks, removing of debit rewards programs or any kind of rewards programs. And so that has kind of been a fundamental change in the industry, and that's something that consumers should be planning to see continuously happening. And that's why you need to be aware of your banking habits and checking your statements and being aware of how your bank is working. This flat, stagnant approach of banks being the same from day 1 to day 30 isn't the case. There is a constant change in the market. And so when you do get those letters in the mail, it is important to read.
Now, it's been reported that some consumers have been dropping out of the banking industry, presumably because of high fees. What are some of the ways banks can be more consumer-friendly and maybe win back some of these customers?
Yeah, probably the best way for banks to be more consumer-friendly is using technology, and I think mobile banking and online banking are two ways to do so. Two trends we've definitely seen is that some of the larger banks are kind of charging people to even visit their branches, which is kind of sounds a little crazy. They're deterring people to do so because they do want people to use online. And by doing that allows banks to lower the cost and keep this business efficient for them and hopefully for consumers and fees. And so I think what banks can do is they don't want to deter people or take things away from people. I think they need to leverage technology to make things smarter for them. And I think if consumers can adapt, mobile banking and other aspects like that in their lifestyle, they'll start to find a better relationships with their bank. It's the consumers who choose to stay in the traditional format that might feel that they're being left behind and not being treated how they were before.
Alex, before I let you go, tell me a little bit about My Bank Tracker and what kind of information can consumers find there?
Yeah, My Bank Tracker is a personal finance hub that's really designed to help consumers make smarter banking decisions. And we do that in three really easy ways. The first is through editorial content, really specific around products and the banks. We have a bank profile for each of our banks that allows us to review them and give insights on that bank. Secondly, we have the tools to allow consumers to compare products when they're ready to do so. And then finally, we do ask consumers to come back and review their bank and their experience to help other consumers make smarter decisions when they're ready to make the change as well.
Okay, the website is mybanktracker.com. Alex, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Alex Matjanec, co-founder of mybanktracker.com. And we'll leave you with this. Sheila McKean of the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago has a rather unique view of how you should go about choosing a bank. Think of it as you're looking for love, she says. Don't just settle for the first one that comes along. This is Mark Huffman back with more about you and your money on the next MoneyWatch Radio.